First and foremost, just again, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this morning. We have a lot of information to provide you. We're going to certainly do our best to provide as much as we can. I have Superintendent Danny Smythe, who's in charge of investigative operations, who will be speaking today, and I'm going to quickly pass it on to him, and we'll get started.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, everyone. On Monday, we appealed to the public for assistance to solve the attack on Rinelle Harper. And the response we received was tremendous. We certainly want to acknowledge and thank the citizens of Winnipeg. Overnight, investigators arrested 2 young men responsible for the attack on Rinelle, and a second attack in the area of Portage and Sherbrooke that occurred afterwards. Attempted murder and aggravated sexual assault charges have been laid, and these 2 males are now off the street and remanded into custody. I just want to recap a little bit. On Friday evening, Rinelle Harper was out with friends in the South Broadway area. During the evening, she was separated from her friends. Investigators now know that the 2 male accused met with Rinelle and struck up a conversation with her in that South Broadway area. They walked to the Riverwalk, and once down there, the 2 males turned on Rinelle, and they violently assaulted her about the upper and lower body. Investigators believe that Rinelle ended up in the frigid waters of the Assiniboine River after the assault. Investigators now know that Rinelle managed to crawl out of the river a short distance away upstream, and she was attacked a second time by the same males and left unconscious and essentially left for dead on the Riverwalk. A passerby discovered her unconscious body at about 7 in the morning, and she was rushed to hospital in critical condition. Investigators now know that the 2 male accused left the scene of Ms. Harper's attack and came upon a second victim in the area of Portage and Sherbrooke. Again, conversation was struck up with the males, and they walked with her for a short distance before attacking her in the area of the Sherbrooke pool. The second victim was assaulted with a weapon about the upper body, and she too was sexually assaulted. Again, she was left unconscious by her attackers. As you know, we went to extraordinary measures by releasing the identity of Rinelle Harper. I felt it was really important to humanize her, and the response from the public has been tremendous. Our homicide investigators started to receive calls within hours of that release. Also want to acknowledge something that we didn't really consider. This really resonated with our internal members, our members of the service itself. They became acutely aware of this case, and in particular, there was a constable in the Division 11 downtown area that really brought forward some information to homicide that was instrumental in linking the 2 separate attacks together and the 2 victims. Without that information, I'm not sure that we would have been able to resolve this as quickly as we did. Finally, I want to acknowledge and thank the Harper family for being a part of this. They have been tremendous to deal with. I can only empathize with what they must be going through, but I really want to thank them for trusting us enough to allow us to identify Rinelle in this manner. I think they showed tremendous courage, and I'm happy we were able to secure these arrests. That's all I really have to release at this point. I'll try to answer some questions, but I want to be very clear that I'm not really prepared to get into a lot of detail of the investigation itself. That's really now for the courts and the disclosure before the courts, but I'll do what I can.
Superintendent, so are you suggesting that by releasing her name that helped the flow of information to come faster? And if so, is this something that PS may be looking to do more of in the future?
I can confirm that by taking this tact, it had a direct result in this coming to the end and the rest that came out of it. I would have to say that I would have to consider it again, but every investigation would be considered on its own merit. I don't take lightly the fact of identifying a victim in this way, but I think it was the right thing to do in this case.
Is there a legal concern about that now?
As a point of technicality, is there
Between this and the Tina Fontaine?
I'm sorry, coming up.
Are you looking at similarities between this and what happened to Tina Fontaine?
Well, I mean, certainly Tina Fontaine and Rinelle Harper, they're both victims, for sure. And we're investigating both of those events, those incidents as separate investigations. We don't have any information right now that would suggest these men were involved with the Tina Fontaine investigation. That being said, we really had little, if any, contact with these men before this. We will certainly take a closer look at them.
Do we know how Rinelle ended up in the water on her own, or was she placed in the water by the two suspects?
We're not really clear on that.
as a point of technicality, have you spoken to the parents about the use of her name now and what their wishes might be with that?
Certainly, our investigators have had daily contact with the family. As I mentioned, they consented to allowing us to take this tact, and they've been tremendous, and I thank you for it.
So going forward, there's no legal concerns with still using that name as far as you're concerned?
No.
Can you talk a little bit just about the fact these men allegedly assaulted her twice and then went on to assault a second woman, and what that might say about what kind of people they are, or this crime?
I think their crimes and the viciousness of them speak for themselves. I can't even pretend to describe what I think they were thinking.
You said it was the work of a certain officer or something that linked these two suspects who were already in custody. Can you expand on that?
Well, I think the public appeal resonated both with members of the public at large, but it certainly resonated with our own members too. And as I indicated, one of our members in the downtown area really kind of was able to bring forward some information that was instrumental to the homicide investigators.
How is Rinelle doing?
My understanding from the media is that she's getting better each day. I haven't seen her or spoken to her, but my understanding is that she will recover.
Do you have any more clarity how she got separated from the group of people she was with, and how she came to contact with two males who are now accused?
I don't have real detail on that. I know that our investigators have spoken with the friends that she was with. It appears that at some point they just got separated and everyone kind of went their own way.
These other two males, the two accused, they weren't previously known to her before this night, to your knowledge?
They were not, and they weren't involved with her friends either.
Has surveillance video or CCTV video been any part of the investigation?
It has.
From a neighboring building, or?
Yeah, I mean, in the South Broadway area, there's a number of buildings that have cameras, and certainly some of the camera footage was used to piece together the timeline.
Is that how you were able to identify the suspects in the end, or was there another means?
There was another means, but certainly that contributed.
Did the victim identify the suspects?
You know, again, I'm not prepared to get into real detail. Some of the disclosure of this now needs to be done through the court process.
Now that this is before the courts, are you going to continue to use her name? I mean, you talked a bit about the unusual nature of releasing it in the first place. Will you continue to use it in the future?
Well, I guess it's out there now, but I mean, it's certainly not something that we routinely do. As this case sort of fades from everyone's memory, I'm sure we won't identify her every time we talk about this case.
Can you identify her wounds?
No.
You mentioned just how this sort of struck officers within the unit and their desire to work on this case. Can you expand upon that a little bit? What sort of hit home with them and what they were feeling?
Well, I think sometimes we forget that our members are members of the public as well. We're a big organization. There are over 1,500 cops in this organization. And I think sometimes, I think we need to realize that they don't always know all of the information about specific cases either. The public release provided many of our officers with detail that they wouldn't have known before. And in this case, the officer was able to make that link between Rinelle Harper and the second attack.
There's been a report that a baseball bat was used in this.
Again, I'm not getting into the detail of the specifics of the attack. That's for the disclosure in the courts.
The charges these two guys face, were they based on the Harper case as well as the...
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear you.
Oh, the charges that the two guys are facing, is that just for the Harper case or is that as well?
No, that'll include both. So, just to be clear, the attempt murder is on the Harper. There are sexual assault charges or aggravated sexual assault charges on both victims, Harper and the second woman in the Sherbrooke in Portage.
Okay.